Neville makes $1 million a year helping people write words on the internet. And the wildest part is, he does this with no employees, and he built his entire business to be dummy-proof.
The dumbest, awesome trick I've ever learned in my life. That simple act has gotten me some of my best friends, some of my best investments, some of my best business contacts, and just a lot of fun opportunities.
It all started in college after learning one skill and conducting a series of small experiments.
I think about it the dumb way of let me just try a small thing, experiment. It's not a real business. I didn't incorporate it. I didn't do anything. I spent $10 on a domain name. That's it. Wait, if I can do something I enjoy doing and make money at it, that's better than a job, right?
In this video, he shares everything, including how he got his very first clients, all of his revenue streams, the best copywriting books and exercises for anyone to learn today, and the exact playbook he would do if he were to start again from scratch.
And that's probably my number one tip for copywriting, to get better at, and just start doing it in your head everywhere you go. These three are probably the ones I go back the most to. But that was a very profound shift with me. That's okay, look at these psychological triggers. Which combo of 1 to 3 of them am I appealing to? I was holy crap, I can't believe I'm just hearing about this. Hell yeah. I think it used to be you get work from these big platforms, but I think the best platform is...
This episode is filled with so many examples. I sat down with him for 4 hours, but we just took the very best parts for this video. And what I love about Neville is not only does he share specific examples and how to apply something, but he also might just be the happiest entrepreneur I've ever met. You'll see it throughout the episode, but he's just curious and excited about what he's working on. And there's so many lessons. Enjoy the video. Let's dive in. Here we are. Neville, thanks for having us.
What's up, man?
So you've been copywriting for a few decades now. How did you first get into this and why?
When the internet was coming out, it was very obvious that everyone's going to be using this, right? And sure enough, from that, almost all my best friends are from my blogging era days. Yeah, Noah Kagan, Sam Parr, these are all people I met when I was blogging. And in some ways, you're finding these people across the nation, across the world, that have the same interests of you, that are very aligned with you in a lot of ways. And that was all from just writing words on the internet back in the day. And we all still do it to this day. It's fun.
I went digging on the internet and I found your old YouTube channel.
Oh, nice.
And I think the first video that's still public today was from 18 years ago. And you have all these little mini experiments, things from how to crash a party and meeting Elton John and Michael Dell and Lance Armstrong to your homeless experiment, living under a bridge 14 years ago. And there's something very unique when I watch that, of realizing that you're just experimenting with things and teaching as you go. Do you view yourself as a teacher, as an experimenter, as a copywriter? How do you look at it?
No, there's no grand plan on this. It was just kind of that'd be fun to record it. It'd be kind of funny and just put it out and document it. And that was really the whole impetus. There's no grand plan. And I realized those types of experiments where you take a little bit more risk and do something a little bit more crazy in the real world do really, really, really well. And I think you're still seeing it today with people walking up on the street being hey, how much money do you make or whatever. Those are still some of the most popular videos. And so I think it just educated people, entertained people, and also it's just fun for me. It's scratching an itch. It was a fun hobby. And back then I made no money off this. No one was making money on the internet like that. So for me, I was purely doing it just because I really enjoyed doing it.
Can you talk a little bit about what your business is and how these wacky experiments maybe led you down the breadcrumbs?
My whole life has been experiments. It's just let me just try this shit out. Let's just see what happens. I'm going to do a little small thing. I'm going to put up a web page and see if anyone buys anything. And so I always just try out these small little things, and I put a deadline on it, maybe let's give it a month. And if I can't do it in a month, I'm probably not going to do it. And so my life has been a series of those, and any business that's taken off has usually stemmed from here's this dumb experiment. And then it turns out this one actually starts making some money. And I'm let me take it a little more seriously. So in college, I did a bunch of these. I remember running 10 different businesses, quote unquote, 10 experiments that I was making money off of. I was collecting blogger.com templates, and I put it on a website called fancyblog.com. I tried joining a company where you sign up and people get text message deals. I was trying that. I started a rave company where I sold rave stuff. And it turns out that was the one that paid for all my college tuition.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just despite me being bad at it, and I was maybe if I spend a little bit more time on this one, it'll become a business. And sure enough, it did. And so in college, I was doing hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue. And then, I made a percentage of that as profit. If I can do something I enjoy doing and make money at it, that's better than a job, right? So I was never against having a job. I was just if I could do my own thing and make the same amount of money as a job, then I'd rather do that, because the upside is unlimited. The downside, potentially also unlimited. I remember when I learned copywriting, one of the biggest things it said was just like, give people examples of stuff they can do with the product. Because I was saying you could just go on a dance floor and go like this. And that was all I was telling people.
Yeah.
And now it's like, wait, plumbers use them as a tool, as a handy tool. Oh, people go camping with them, give them all the people in their campsite because it's like $5 for 10 of these things. They're super disposable. I listed out all the reasons why you should buy this product. And that was my first like really high revenue day. I made thousands of dollars in profit. And I was like, wow, that was just from an email. And I used to send out an email newsletter and it never made any money. Yeah. And then when I learned copywriting, I did like the total opposite of my newsletter. It was like actually kind of a very few images and just like, it just told a story of how all these different people use this one product. And I sold out of them immediately. I had to find like a different supplier to come up with as many orders as I got. And so that's when I was like, copywriting seems cool. I like this. I like making a lot more money than I did before. And at the same time, Noah Kagan, one of my buddies, was building AppSumo off my couch. And AppSumo was one of his side projects at the time. And he was really good at like collecting emails and marketing. But man, his emails were like, they were crap. He was succeeding despite the emails being so bad. And the emails were like, here's a $100 coupon. And I was just like, what if you applied this copywriting stuff? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, what if you said how people could use this software, why people would use it, give some examples of people making a bunch of money with it. And so I was like, let me do this for you. We sent that out. And I think like famously, that was like the first like $10,000 profit day that AppSumo ever had. It's a similar thing with my business where I was like, wow, I just made all this money. And the only difference was the email content. That was the only difference. Nothing else changed. The page didn't change. Nothing changed. Right. So it wasn't really risky. I wasn't like some like extreme risk taker or anything in that sense. It seemed actually quite logical to me that I'm making more doing this than a job. So yeah, let's do that.
And you still haven't had a job.
I still have not had a real job in my life, no.
For somebody listening to this, has a bunch of ideas and they're like, okay, I'm going to just start this monthly business idea. Like, how do you zoom in on the ones that are working?
There's two aspects of it. There's the technical aspect of getting it built. And then more so for a lot of people I've seen, it's just like the psychological aspect. Like people are afraid to put out a business. And so a lot of people are like, well, if I put out a business and I mention it on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, and then it fails, it's kind of embarrassing, right? Everyone talks about like failure and stuff, but it's like, it is embarrassing to like lose money on something. And what I'm telling them is like, consider it just a small experiment. You're just putting up a web page. You're just calling a couple of customers to see if they'll buy something like that. This doesn't have to be some grand business that you like incorporate, do an LLC, all that kind of stuff. If you're filing LLC papers and stuff, you're probably just doing it wrong.
Right.
Instead, try to get a few customers first. And this is called like, MVP, validation, whatever. Yeah. But it's just like, can you get a few people to pay you? And then if it works, take it more seriously. And if that works, take it more seriously. Keep upping the ante until it's a big business. But I think a lot of people get stuck on a business idea, never try it or try it for years and think about it. Whereas I'm like dumb and I'm like, hey, what if I just put up a webpage and see what happens? And I put up a Calendly link and it's like, hey, no one in 3 months has actually contacted me about the service. I'm like, maybe I'm doing something wrong here. Maybe I'm not getting enough customers. Maybe no one wants this service. And so the important part about that is like every single successful business idea you've seen has like pivoted a bunch of times.
Can you talk a little bit about your business today, like maybe top line revenue or your different revenue streams? I think you've shared some publicly, maybe.
Yeah, so I'd say my business probably has like 8 like tentacles of income total. The community itself makes many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And it's a subscription-based community. So it's like $97 a month, $700 to $900 per year, right? And then if people renew, then it's like $365 a year because we like having people on for a long period of time. And so what that is I was early on that, like everyone's moving towards communities. I realized with the course, the problem was watching me talk about copywriting, that's really cool. Watching me talk about copywriting, but then you showing me your copy and I can help you with it is way cooler. We made like basically like what I would call like a heavily modified forum software where people can upload their copy to us. And then myself and other professional copywriters that we hire, they go through and like rewrite all your stuff. It's kind of like consulting scaled. Just those changes within our community, people see like all sorts of wins. So I do make money from YouTube videos. I don't think it's like a significant amount. It's like a couple grand, like maybe at max $10,000 a year. But then from there, people will buy our stuff, which makes a lot more people get it's in the subscriptions. Then another big part of my stuff is consulting. So I'll take like kind of higher end consulting projects. And we've done stuff for like contrarian thinking. We're going to be doing something for like the Daily Stoic. We of course do stuff for AppSumo. and then like a whole slew of marketing companies and stuff you've never heard of. So then consulting is probably like the next largest revenue stream from there. And then from there, there's like affiliates. I wrote a book a long time ago. I wrote 2 books. One does really well. One was a smaller one. And that'll still make between $500 and $1,000 a month from a book I wrote 10 years ago. And that also, because people will buy the book, they'll hear about my course and buy something from there. And then I also do like some small affiliate links here and there, and that'll make like 10 grand, 15 grand a year, that kind of stuff. And then the other big thing is I also get the opportunity to like advise companies, and I'll usually take some money for advising as well as equity. And every once in a while, there's some sort of payout event. Like I was an investor in like The Hustle. And when that got bought by HubSpot, I got a payout from that equity. But one cool thing that I'd say I probably make more money off of than the actual investing is just the relationship with the companies.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this earlier, that like I have AppSumo equity. AppSumo hasn't sold. So I've made technically $0 from AppSumo equity. But how much money have I made from the AppSumo affiliation of like being the brand, the guy behind the voice, being able to like get the marketing power of AppSumo behind some of my products? Oh, millions of dollars.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'd say like that actual like affiliation with certain companies has been far more valuable than any payout I've ever got.
So you teach literally thousands of business owners some of these copywriting tactics, and you see what doesn't work and what works well. And you've sort of has distilled this into like your own almost copywriting principles that you've of course borrowed from the greats, but have made your own tweaks. And you have this viral video of 9 copywriting exercises that anyone can do right now. And you spelled it W-R-I-T-E right now, which is great. Good copy. You know, he's a copywriter. And it's a great video. Everyone should check it out. There's a blog post on it too. But I want you to like zoom in a little bit on just the top 2 or 3 exercises that people could do right now. I think you had one about taking ads and then rewriting them yourself. Like anybody could do that today. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I call it mental ad rewriting. So you take any ad that you see while looking, you're driving down the street and there's a billboard, you're going on the internet, and you're like, there's an ad, there's an Instagram ad you see. So for example, if you look up at one of these ads, it's like an old Ogilvy Volkswagen ad, and it just says lemon. And you're like, what does that mean? And so you look at that ad and you go, how would I make that ad better? Right? How would I make this better? Or why does it work? Why did that grab my attention? And so the reason that like that ad grabbed my attention so much and I have it framed on my wall was just like, you're like, wait a second, this car company is advertising that's a lemon, and lemon means like, you know, it's a bad car.
Yeah.
And so then you want to read that little small text under there. So that headline works with the image to grab your attention and make you read that text. Mental ad rewriting is where you're like, how do I make that better? Right? And that's just good copywriting practice that you can do in your head anywhere for free. You don't need anyone to tell you how to do it. You just think like, why did that grab my attention, or how would I make it better? And that's probably my number 1 tip for copywriting to get better at it. And just start doing it in your head everywhere you go. And when I first learned about copywriting, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Every ad I saw, and like I was like in, you know, reading a magazine in a plane or something back in the day, I'd be like, this sucks. I can make that better. I can make that better. That billboard's terrible. I don't even know what it's for. I can make that better.
Yeah.
I was like, what if they just put the website on there? What if they put a phone number on there? And just like thinking like that makes you a little bit more of an optimizer.
Yeah.
And every piece of advertising you see, what if we can make it 5% better, 20% better, 100% better?
Right.
And that's what mental ad rewriting is. Yeah. So now that we're doing mental ad rewriting and seeing like, why did that ad work? Why did that ad suck? What's good about that? What's bad about that? Well, now you got to collect them, because like you're going to forget, you know, we're going to forget we talked about this in 2 days. And so I started collecting a swipe file. A swipe file just means like, it used to literally be like a physical file that you just put like cool advertisements in a folder. And now it's of course all digital. But the most impressive thing is like, you can just do this for free now. So I would use something like Google Keep, and you can create your own swipe file. Any sort of ad, you take a screenshot of it. Try out keep.google.com. It's really cool and it's free. And you can basically make like your own Pinterest board of all the things you like. So that's the benefit of keeping a swipe file. And I will say that more and more, all my swipe file stuff, like I'd say 80% of it comes from my phone now. And how do you create a swipe file on your phone? It's actually the easiest one. Take a screenshot of anything you think is cool. You don't have to annotate it. You don't have to do anything. And then in your photos, go to the screenshot page. Got your swipe file right there. So just take screenshots of stuff, and on your screenshots, you look at it. Every screenshot you have is right there. That's your entire swipe file.
Right.
And so I can just click that and browse back on it and be like, oh, that was a cool Instagram ad. That was a cool YouTube video. And then the step further to categorize it, you use something like Google Keep, and you can send it to Google Keep. and categorize it under pricing, videos, images, whatever. But keeping a swipe file of stuff that you like and don't like is super important. And then when you collect it all, it's easy to like just say like, oh yeah, I like those. Let's move on. Caveman mode.
The pro copywriter himself, the caveman. What
is this is caveman mode. So what caveman mode is, whenever you're reading anything, so whether it be a sales page, an email, most people are not like paying attention to it. They're reading kind of like a caveman. So imagine this kind of like dumb, doesn't care caveman, bleary-eyed, you're like, whatever. And so that's the way I read people's copy. The caveman is an editing method to like, you read through your copy, and if you're like, should I keep it? Is it good? You say, dumb.
Right.
Yeah. The third exercise I always recommend to people is copy work. And a lot of like the legends of the past used to do this. And let's zoom in on one of these like cool advertisements up there. So for example, how to create advertising that sells. That's a classic ad that in the 80s made the Ogilvy Corporation, they're a big agency, like something like $2 billion. There's a tremendous amount of money back then. And what they did was they basically listed out all their top marketing methods in that one-page magazine ad. And if you go through and hand copy it, what you're going to notice is like, oh, he writes in really short sentences. Oh, he's really small words. He never uses like big fancy words. Oh, he kind of writes like a person would talk. Like he doesn't sound like some aristocrat. He sounds just kind of like a dude. And so if you also go and do the lemon ad, the Volkswagen ad, you read how that was written and you're like, oh, very simple words, short sentences, keeping the subject on track. There's not that much copy. There's actually only like maybe like 2 paragraphs of copy on the entire thing. And they're using that to sell an entire car. And so you just learn a lot by picking this skill up. And I actually say, find a couple classic pieces of copy like that. You can go on my site and find, copywritingcourse.com/copy work, and find a bunch of pieces of copy work. And the cool thing is you probably only need to do about 3 pieces. I'd say you get kind of diminishing returns from there. But once you do that first piece, you're like, oh, interesting. You learn quite a bit just by copying someone. So think about it. When someone learns to play the guitar, they're not making up their own music. They're playing Metallica or Green Day or something that's already been out there. Anytime someone's learning something new, they just copy what someone else did, and then they can make their own later. So for beginner copywriters, I'm like, start copying some of these ads, hand write them out. Yeah. That's a great exercise called copy work. With the modern form of copy work, I'd say I actually do a lot, but with Canva. So instead of hand copying something, I'll take it into Canva and break it down by layers and make something mine. Like I saw a cool chart, like a flow chart of a guy's business with his emails. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And I recreated it and made it for myself. That was kind of like a form of copy work of like taking this thing that's really cool and making my own. And it actually made me think. I was just like, holy crap, how do I make money off this part of my business? And then it flows into that on his one, but on mine, it doesn't do anything. And so from that, I actually like modified my business model a little bit. Yeah, I think just like there's so much content that goes out that like anything that stands out a little bit often gets a little bit more attention. And quite honestly, like, I mean, it's just more fun. Yeah. Right. So when I say like, hey, listen up, chump, someone's just like, oh, that starts off in a kind of an interesting tone. It's not like, hello there, fellow internet reader. Yeah. It's not like that. It sets the tone a little bit and it gets people to read on. And some people might actually hate it, but then some people will really love it. Yeah. So anything that stands out just a little bit more tends to get a lot more attention. This is actually a well-known thing that David Ogilvy always talks about in his stuff is like when everyone's doing this one thing, you do the opposite. It doesn't mean that it's going to be better just because it's different, but it is something to experiment with, like what boundaries can I push here to get more attention?
You have tons of books in here, books over here, books over here. I know you're very well read. Can we talk about just your 3 favorite, most impactful books for learning copywriting?
Dude, let's go grab them. Nice.
All right, we got your top 3 favorite books. Why these 3 books?
These 3 are probably the ones I go back the most to. This one, Ogilvy on advertising, man, I go back to this one all the time just for inspiration. And the cool thing about this book is like, first of all, it's filled with tons of examples, stuff that worked, stuff that didn't work. But he would also be like, how do I get the entire United Kingdom to buy a certain brand of rice? How do I get people to visit Puerto Rico before it was like a famous destination? And he talks about how to sell on TV, how to sell through newspapers, how to sell through radio, and the combination of all of them. And I love that because to me, copywriting is about getting a message into your brain or getting a message into a million brains. And the medium is like whatever the best medium is for that. Right. It could be text, it could be images, it could be video, it could be whatever. Right. And so I think David Ogilvy was like under the same impression. And that's why I like this book all the time. And sometimes if I'm stuck on a project, I'll just open this up and start reading through it. And not only is it just fun to listen to and kind of a fun read, but also there's so many different angles and ways that he sells stuff in here that you're just like, oh, that would be a cool way to sell this. And then you get an idea and you're off to the races.
Right.
So I read this book all the time. I give it out as gifts all the time. It's great.
Right.
All right, this one's called The Adweek Copywriting Handbook by Joseph Sugarman. I've actually met this guy a bunch of times. He's recently passed. So even in here, he has a bunch of examples of things he sold back in the day. But the brilliance of this book is he has a chapter where there's like just under 30 of these psychological triggers that make people want to buy. For example, belonging to something, like being included in something, is a psychological trigger why people want to join a membership or a club. Or for example, he tells a story where they were selling these collector's items, where it was like a silver airplane wing with the different like American Airlines, United Airlines, all that, and they were made out of silver. Profound to me. Because before I used to sell something, I was just like, maybe we could just say that we got this on sale. And I'm like, wait. What's the thing that we're going after with this audience, right? Are we trying to save them money? Are we trying to make them look better? What is the trigger that we're going after? And sometimes there can be multiple. But that was a very profound shift with me. That's like, okay, look at these psychological triggers. Which combo of 1 to 3 of them am I appealing to? And let's go hard on that. Third one is this book called Getting Everything You Can Out of All You Got by Jay Abraham. This isn't technically a copywriting book. It's actually just more like a business book. Jay Abraham was like this guy that was big in the 80s, 90s. But this is one of those books that I pick up and I go to any chapter. I don't want to read it through each time. I pick up, go to any single chapter, and then it starts talking about something super interesting and I get really good ideas. I just open up a chapter and it's about like the best client to find. And I'm like, oh, what does that say? And then I'll read it and be like, holy crap, I'm doing this all wrong. And so this is one of those books that I think it's taken like his entire career and compressed it into like the minimum amount of space. And it's one of those books I just can open up to anyone and find something interesting to read. That's why I keep going back to it. And this teaches you a lot about business, a lot about copywriting, a lot about marketing campaigns. It's kind of like the lot of those 3.
If you were starting again in your career, young Neville, what would you advise to him?
I mean, I might be a freelancer at first just to generate cash. That's actually what I did. I did like web design and stuff for people. And they're like, we'll pay you $1,000 to make a website. And I was like, what? Like, I know how to make a website. I'll do that. So if I would start a freelance business. And I think a lot of freelancers, whenever they start, they don't realize they're starting a freelance business. And so one of the things I probably would have done back in the day differently, was start getting reviews right away. So if you go on Amazon and something has 1 review, you're like, I don't trust this. It has 20,000 reviews, you trust it. It's not a big jump to see that if a freelancer / agency / whatever has more reviews on a trusted site, like Google local listings or something, that it'd probably be more trusted. You'd probably more likely go with them, right? To get more exposure, etc. First, I think you need to identify what you're good at. So what do? What do people come to you for help with, right? So a lot of people come to me saying, like, I want to be a copywriter. I'm like, cool, what have you written? They say, I've never written anything. And I'm like, well, I don't even think you want to be a copywriter. Write me 3 blog posts and tell me if you still like this. By the second one, they're like, I'm out. I'm like, cool. We identified that you don't need to be a copywriter. What other skill sets do you have? A lot of people will come to me and be like, oh, I was an accountant for a long time. Now I want to do my own thing. I'm like, can you start an accounting thing on the side? Is that something you'd be interested in? I think a lot of people don't want to do their current job and they say they don't like it. And I say, do you not like it or do you not like the money you're currently making? And that's a big thing to realize. I'm like, okay, let's say you're an accountant, you don't like it. What if you get paid $1 million a day? Would you like it? They'll be like, I love it. I'm like, okay, the problem is not the accounting, it's just like you're not getting paid enough. Is there something we could do about that? Increase your prices, only work with larger clients, etc. And a lot of people, if they don't like being an accountant or something, but then they are just like an advisor to a bunch of different companies, it might actually be a totally different job to you. And it's a lot more fun when you're working on something on your own rather than being told what to do. Like you don't have to do this work, you want to do it. So I think there is a difference over there. But also I think, so number one, finding like an offer to do. And this is like I think like a throw spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks. You can offer multiple things. So a lot of freelancers start out as like total generalist. So try to find something that you're already good at or that people already pay you for. And that's like the best way to just get started. Later, you can expand your offering. But here's the evolution of a lot of freelancers I've seen. I'm sure you've seen this a lot too. Someone becomes a freelancer and then some company is just like, hey, we're a really good match. Why don't you come on? Why don't you come as an advisor or get some equity in the company or be our early first employee? freelancing is a lot of serendipity. At the same time, out of 100 gigs you do, one of them might be like your golden goose that for years pays off. Or that company gets really big and you were like, I was the head of marketing at this XYZ insert big software company.
Right.
So a lot of those types of things happen. And a lot of people that I see become freelancers and are really good at freelancing, they don't stay in freelancing forever. They end up transitioning, like become part of a company or own a piece of a company or start their own company.
Right.
That's why I like freelancing. Like if you're not sure what you're going to do, it's just like, let's just start bringing in money. And bringing in money is the universe's way of saying like, yeah, you're good at that. If you're bringing in a ton of money from video editing, maybe you're good at video editing. We had this one thing, we had this string of hot releases, like 3 in a row of hot releases on AppSumo that I was involved with. And I was like, I'm on fire, I'm invisible. I don't need it. I don't need any more feedback. I know what people want. And previously all those products were like people asking us how to do a thing and then we showed them how to do that thing. This one was called like the Sumo Diet Course. And it was when I started like eating healthier and working out and stuff. And I was like, wow, I just have a lot more energy. Everyone should know this. And so I spent like a couple months putting together this product. We launched it and I was like, everyone's got to know this information. It's great. And it was like the biggest flop ever. Like no one bought it. Like, I mean, maybe 2 or 3 people, but it was like sad. I mean, it was a total waste of time. And what I realized was like, no one has once ever asked me health advice. No one comes to me for that. I'm not just like, not the guy. And so I was just like, wait, I'm making this whole product about this that no one comes to me for. But you know what people came to me for? For copywriting advice, help with their web page, those types of things. And so I was like, oh, I got to stick to what people are coming to me for, what I'm good at.
Next, we got a tour of Neville's house, which included his home office, sauna, gym, and rooftop. One cool thing I noticed is he's dummy-proofed his entire house. So if he wants to record a video, he clicks a button. If he wants to open the blinds, he clicks one button. And so many aspects of his life have been dummy-proofed. Let's check it out.
Yeah, this is the bedroom. And right now it's in night mode. But as you can see, we can transition to open mode over here. These blinds open. It's one of my favorite things in the morning to do that. And like all the light comes in. It's pretty cool. Little outside balcony area. This is a structural bar, but what I use it for is pull-ups also. So come out here in the morning, do a couple pull-ups. Pretty fun.
Yeah. I asked Noah before this interview, what's the #1 biggest thing he has learned from you? Any idea of what he said?
Keep it stupid. Keep it simple.
Similar, but he said how to be happy and your ability to be happy and not want more, but to optimize for happiness.
No, I actually found this out in high school. I read a book called The Male Midlife Crisis. And I think what happens is at middle age, a lot of people realize they're like, holy crap, I'm going to die. And it helps you answer those questions really well by knowing that like at this date, I'm going to die. So what do I want to do in the meantime? And I think that's made me a lot happier. Some people find it a morbid thought. I think it's very logical. And I'm just like, yeah, this makes me a lot happier. It makes me appreciate the journey through life rather than trying to reach some end state. And so for me, my whole life has been defined of like, I've shared my ideas with the world and people have come out of the woodworks and been like, I like that idea. Let's meet up. That simple act has like got me some of my best friends, some of my best investments, some of my best business contacts, and just like a lot of fun opportunities. And so I do think that sharing your ideas with the world, maybe it's not for everybody, but if you're hesitant about it, like, what do I have to say? Maybe you do have some unique ideas. Maybe you do have some fun stuff to share. Why wouldn't you want to share them with the world? Like really, what's the downside? Unless you're talking about really crazy, controversial stuff, I don't think there's really any downside. You never know where that small bit of writing can really launch off an entire career or a whole chain of serendipity down the line.
Amazing. Where can people find you on the internet or any final messages for somebody watching?
Yeah,
this?
my name is really easy to Google, Neville Medhora. And then you can also look me up at Copywriting Course. You can look at swipefile.com. And I'm on all the social medias, especially X and Instagram and YouTube.